What is the passion you need to survive? Do you have what it takes to survive? You being here today is the climax of your survival story. Survival means the art of continuing to live. You being here today means that you have been born on a planet where human life, thrival and survival is possible. It means that all of your ancestors, some of them are even common ancestors, have survived long enough to reproduce at least once. And it's a story that you've been very lucky, that maybe you're privileged, probably you're privileged, having the time to be here. And it also means that suicide has not been high on your to-do list. I'm interested to know if you have what it takes to survive for a very simple reason. I would like to know that if we ever find ourselves together in a survival situation, that you are not depending too much on me, and that you do not end up eating me or feeding me to your children. So, what does it take to survive? Do you know how to take care of your 6 survival priorities? Do you even know your 6 survival priorities, and would you be able to identify a survival situation? Let's take a look at this together. The place that our species, and only our species, calls planet Earth, is the only place where you can possibly survive, to my knowledge. And proven by our ancestors and proven by us being here today, it is possible to survive on this planet as naked as we are still being born today. So what does it take to survive? What are these 6 survival priorities? They're food, water, shelter, and air. And it's usually getting difficult for most. 4, what could there be missing? It's health and it's community. If you manage to take care of these 6 survival priorities, you're fine. You survive, you live. And if you fail to do so in a sufficiently sustainable manner, you're dying, or you're set onto a path towards death. So, let's take a look at one of these 6 survival priorities. Let's take food. Food needs to be sufficient. It needs to cover the nutrients that our bodies need, but also food needs to have a positive energy input-output balance. It means that we need to get more energy back from eating the food than what we ourselves invested to get the food to our table, into our stomachs. And while this might feel covered for us, when we look at the overall chain of energy input and output, we have to take into account the energy it takes to build the fishing vessel and operate the fishing vessel that catches and processes and transports and sells and stores and heats up the tuna on your tuna pizza if you choose to do so. And please do not panic now. I need to break to you that none of the foods that most of us are likely to buy in a supermarket here has a positive energy input-output calculation. Which means that the survival priority food is not sufficiently sustainably covered. That means that we qualify for being in a survival situation. Most of us think a survival situation is when you survive a plane crash or find yourself falling from somewhere without a parachute or a rope. But a survival situation is just like that. Not all of the priorities are sufficiently covered. So when we continuously invest more energy for our food than what we get back, even and especially the one that you outsourced, the energy and resources that you outsourced, then we end up losing something. And the same is for all the other 6 survival priorities. And before you panic now, I wouldn't be coming here if the only thing I can tell you is like, yeah, you have reason to panic. Because panic is a very, very bad advisor in a survival situation. So when we look again at the planet Earth, our shared common ground, not just behind me on the picture, but right under here, under our feet, the common ground. When we look at how does survival work here, it's about efficiency. It's about not going detours if we can avoid them. It's about knowing what we can want. Our situation that we all slipped into, we were born into, I was born into, resembles the situation of being born onto a sinking ship. And the ship is sinking if more water gets in the ship than what we manage to get out. The ship is sinking because we keep drilling holes in it. The ship is sinking because we keep ripping planks out of the hull of the ship to feed them into our engines to go in ever faster circles. So how do we deal with this situation? How do we deal with a situation that more resembles a negligent, accidental suicide than being born into a community of life and survival? Our situation, I don't even need to mention, we have climate change, we have mass extinction, we have biodiversity loss. And we might lose, among the over 100 species that we lose every day, there might be a species that our survival really depends on. Like here in the subarctic, it's the mosquito. Without the mosquito, human life wouldn't be possible. So how do we deal with this situation without ending up in panic? It's quite simple. The answer is once again the common ground, because once a sinking ship hits the common ground, it stops sinking. So where is this common ground? To my understanding, nature is the only place on earth. Wherever we are, wherever we can die, wherever we breathe, wherever we sit, wherever we walk and roll with our wheels, we have a few kilos of other organisms inside of our body which behave totally wild. We are wilderness, literally connected. We depend on these organisms inside of our bodies. Without them, we would die. Some of them might actually also kill us. Nature is a very, very fair place. And I'd like to say we, nature, are a very fair place. Is maybe not the right word. It's very fair, very honest, brutal at times, but it's very fair. No prejudices, no assumptions. When we look at this common ground and we know that our life is only possible here, then the answer for dealing with our situation is not asking ourselves what we can do and how can we do it. We are asking ourselves these questions. We are asking ourselves all the time, what do we need to do to be more sustainable? We are asking ourselves maybe even, what is the most sustainable spoon we can produce, while in the reality of our planet we have more spoons than people. I believe that it's much better, instead of asking the many whys, the many whats and hows, is to ask why. Why do we want to survive? Why do we want to live? What is this passion that we need. And I believe that I am only my why. I am because life in all its diversity made my life possible. So I think it's just a logical thing to also choose, actively choose life in all its diversity as our reason, as our passion. And I believe that choosing the well-being of life in all its diversity, even over the well-being of my own survival, is the only way that we can create a chance for the survival of our species. Nature is a humble place, and it's a place that is so beautiful. And seeing all of you sitting here today reminds me of this beauty, and I want to just feel passionate about this. I think it's an active choice between life and death, between suicide, negligent, accidental, born slipped into, and active survival by choice. And there are really good questions that can guide us on this way. Is something that we want actually something that we can want, knowing that we were born naked? Is something that we want to do or want to have, is it beneficial for the well-being of life in all its diversity, or maybe not so? And I believe when we are in this world together, that if we have this why as a destination, always inside of our hearts, inside of every breath that we take, in every heartbeat, in every blink of an eye, that we will find the ways to get to this destination. The common why, based on the common ground, will lead us to different ways, different whats and different hows. Each of them fitting to our very own lives, to our own communities, to our own neighborhoods. That's all I have to say.